Pace is dropped on your Monday here at Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer down here, John here, you there. And busy weekend. You know, if you were a fan of the Premier League, you had some sackings. And I know that I wanted to get reaction from folks like Nick's at Leicester and Michael Head and everybody who follows Chelsea with what's going on. We'll talk about that here in the show this morning. We will also get into Atlanta United and the doubleheader with Red Bulls and Red Bulls 2 coming out of the weekend with 4 points. And just going up again, knowing that it was going to be a weekend of suffering. Morning, Will. Morning to everybody. Morning, Will. And thank you, Badgermon. Happy spring break. Well, it's spring break for some. And, you know, so we got Atlanta United to get into. We have the 2's to get into. We got Major League Soccer to get into. We have the Premier League to get into. So, boring weekend on a bunch of different fronts. And, you know, hey, there's WrestleMania to get into. And it's one of those weekends. Well, I mean, how long have you folks known me? Where you've got, it's one of the sports entertainment weekends of the year. One of these sports entertainment weekends of the past of the calendar. And as it turns out, Cody Runnels, and I guess this is opening kickoff. Oh, come on, Michael. It's sports entertainment. So what I'll do is I'll do story time with John. That's what we'll do. I know it was a terrible finish. I know because I thought you were going to have the dusty finish. And we now start. Oh, okay. So we started a decent time for you, Bam. Decent time. There we go. All right. So Bam's starting with us at a decent hour. It's not midnight. Spring forward, fall back. Or is it fall? Yeah, that's right. Fall back for you. Yes. So instead of it being midnight 05 when you start, it's actually 11:05. A decent hour for things to start with Bam. But no, it's sports entertainment. No, and Michael, it's sports entertainment. Now, we always know that it's entertainment, but no. Story time with John. I'm calling story time with John for the opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And don't forget, when you go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, use the code Soccer down here 15. You get 15% off of your purchase. And they in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth programs and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. But no, this morning, obviously, Atlanta United Red Bulls, the 2's and Red Bulls and Red Bull 2, Major League Soccer, sacking. So, Michael, get your thoughts about Graham Potter in the queue. They just get them and figure out what you want to say about Graham Potter and Chelsea, Brendan Rodgers and Leicester, and we'll get into that as well. So, no, very, very busy weekend. No, it is sports entertainment. But story time with John this morning. And when one of the gentlemen that was going after the unified Universal Championship last night, Cody Rhodes, he was a senior at Leiscester High School here in the Atlanta area, and he was chasing after a state championship in freestyle wrestling at the time. And for me, you know, and this is 20 years ago, so he's chasing after a state championship. And, you know, for me, who grew up on the stuff on Saturday mornings and everything, seeing his father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, in his corner, seeing Diamond Dallas Page in his corner, seeing Glacier in his corner, it was one of those moments where you mark out, obviously. But to see his career path, morning, Ricky, go from where it was then to where it is now, where you have 80,000 people basically eating out of the palm of your hand for a half an hour. And you have to give Roman Reigns a lot of credit, too, in the main event last night. And at some point, I know, well, and Ricky, we'll get into that. What you have, you know, is two entertainers who had an appreciation for the old school way of storytelling. And if you think about all of the elements that were in it last night, where you have, you're selling the injuries, and you're having run-ins, and you're having all of the throwbacks to Cody and his father, Dusty Rhodes, with all of the in-ring moves and things like that. And then you have, run-ins, and then you have the finish that you have. Yes, absolutely, Badger. Absolutely, yes. So we'll be getting into who is available for both Chelsea and Leicester. Leicester maybe more than Chelsea, but no doubt, Sam Allardyce is available. I think the end of the storyline is obviously that Cody will win. It's just a matter of when he will. And what you do in this case is you put Cody over that much more as a hero, as a good guy. And by not winning last night, you put Roman over that much more as this mega heel type, individual. He is, he and Paul Heyman, by the way, master storyteller on his own. And the continuation of how does, with the tag team titles being lost by the Uso brothers, how does that, work its way into all of this, where Roman is the master manipulator, but when you get punched in the mouth, then all of a sudden, and it might be tonight even. It might even be tonight. I mean, the Raw after WrestleMania is always one that's worth watching for one reason or another. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. But no, I think the end game, Ricky, is that Cody does win it, but we have to figure out the circumstances as to how. Do you finally have things turn from inside the bloodline, that kind of stuff? So that's the hook in all of this. So, going back to 20 years ago when he was a senior in high school, covering him there with all of these wrestling legends in a corner, to what he was able to do last night. Fantastic storytelling for those of you that have Peacock. And also you've got Endeavor now purchasing, looks like, WWE and wrapping up UFC and WWE under the same umbrella. So the business aspect of that, we were having a conversation this morning, will be absolutely fascinating as to what happens when it comes to World Wrestling Entertainment and UFC under the same Endeavor umbrella, with I think a combined market value of $21 million. Yeah, no doubt. No, Michael, you're spot on. Absolutely spot on. So now it was just a good flashback last night, and we can get into absolutely what happened in WrestleMania. I know we're still waiting for a couple of heel turns, I'm sure, and things like that. But no, it was sports entertainment at its finest this past weekend, and you end up with Kevin Patrick, and we've got to have Kevin Patrick back on to discuss this weekend once he recovers. Once he recovers from it, that's the biggest thing, is that we've got to figure out how we can get Kevin Patrick to come on and discuss. Yeah, well, but Will, the thing is, with Vince back in charge, you wonder how much he is involved, or was he just something where he comes in for the sale? He's your figurehead. You have him for the press conference. And with what you're seeing with Triple H and booking and writing and do you bring back Stephanie? Because they tried to bring back Shane, and Shane blew out his quads last night. I don't know what it is about entering rings, McMahon's, and quads, but so we'll see. And by the way, did you see the Vince McMahon dye job and the mustache? The dye job and the mustache. That was something that was out there. That was a choice for Snidely Whiplash. So we'll see what happens with all of that. But no, it's just an interesting flashback moment. I've got to find that tape. I'll see if I can find the tape of me interviewing Cody as a state champ in Leiscester High School. And that happened, 20 years ago. So lots happened since then. But no, it was fun stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yes. What better way to go out, McMahon? Yeah, a sale. Absolutely. I don't know. So that's where we are this morning. But yeah, opening kickoff. Yeah, Shane's niece said nope. Exactly. Knees, quads, the whole bit. But yeah, but Snoop improvising. You got to give Snoop a lot of credit for improvising in that moment. Yeah. So Opening kickoff was WrestleMania and what you guys think of that. So go ahead and put that in the queue. We'll have that as a part of the discussion this morning. Cody Rhodes, this close to being a unified champ. But yeah, it's got to be no interference. It's got to be Hell in a Cell. It's got to be something like that where he finally gets to win it on his own. And you figure out maybe SummerSlam or something like that is where it ends. Because if you do it too quickly, then you lose out on all of the momentum and all the monetary aspects of it, all the momentum that you have here. Because now he's got to fight the bloodline as a part of it too. Solo, I'm not ready. Well, now I'm ready. And so you get these sidebar things that you can work your way through as a part of all of this dynamic. So there you go. That's your opening kickoff and a bit of a flashback with me this morning. Oh, sorry, I forgot to take my multivitamins before the show started. So, opening kickoff. There we go. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those watching on Twitch. And once again, remember, use the code soccer down here 15. You get 15% off from your friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. They in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth game. And very, very cool stuff there with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And thanks to all of you who've been investing so far when it comes to Kickoff Coffee. Yeah, Will, and I think it will be Cody that is gonna kick Solo's ass. It's the whole, you're not ready, and I think that it's probably gonna be Cody in some combination of Cody. You see a Philly street fight next year. That would be epic. That'd be very, very cool. All right. Since Michael and Jason have already, it's entertainment. It's like going to Michael. It's like going to a rock concert or like going to the movies. So, but folks want to spend hundreds of dollars, and right now I'm a subscriber on Peacock, and so for me with my Premier League stuff, I get WrestleMania. So I'm not going to complain, but it will be interesting to see how they want to try to take it behind a paywall again when the Endeavor element goes through, and see how they delineate all your pay-per-views and try to make more money off of it. So, all right. We can go one of two directions this morning, and we'll go both directions, obviously. But we can go one of two directions. And I will go ahead and say, all right, majority, we will go in a direction. We can talk about Atlanta United and Red Bulls. We can talk about the 2's and Red Bull 2. Or we can talk about what happened in the Premier League with Brendan Rodgers getting sacked or leaving by mutual consent, and Graham Potter being sacked. We can do this one of two ways. They're both going to get talked about this morning. And I'm leaning that because of Michael and Jason Nix, who, by the way, Nix, it was good to see you before the match this weekend on Saturday out in the Gulch. We can talk about Leicester and Chelsea. What happens now? Because you're talking about two separate elements here, Group 2 and Group 3 in the Premier League, and what happens now. Coco, I don't know if it's going to be Jesse Marsch. I really don't when it comes to Leicester. I really, really don't. But leaving by mutual consent, I guess since we're leaning in this direction, I'll go ahead and go. Bruno Saltor is your interim manager at Chelsea, who looks like Coach Beard, except he's not wearing a hat. But you have Brendan Rodgers leaving Leicester. No replacement has been lined up right now. Mateta's winner at the death means that Leicester gets into the relegation zone, 5th defeat in 6 matches. And I know that, Nix, you will appreciate what Brendan Rodgers did in his time. First FA Cup, 2 of their 3 highest Premier League finishes. But 4 years, Brendan Rodgers gone. FA Cup success in 21, 5th loss in 6. Talks between Leicester bosses and Rodgers took place Sunday morning when it was agreed best for all parties that he leave his role with immediate effect. Basically, they go into a meeting, and it's like, probably best that we part ways. And everyone agreed that that was the best way to go. Club statement. And Nix, you can probably put earmuffs on with this. Leicester City Football Club reached a mutual agreement with Brendan Rodgers that will see him leave the club after 4 years as our men's first-team manager. One of the most successful managers in club history. Long-awaited FA Cup triumph, FA Community Shield same year, two of the club's 3 highest Premier League finishes, consecutive European campaigns, including the first European semifinal in 2022. And Nick's, I'm right there with you. Should have been done a while ago. First team coach is Adam Sadler, and that one's going to take a little bit of time instead of saying Sandler. Adam Sadler and Mike Stoll will take immediate responsibility for managing the team, who play Villa on Tuesday at the King Power. Let's see what the juice boxes are on this one. See if there's anything resembling a new head coach bump. And the answer is Leicester right now in the composite at a plus 152. Your draw is a plus 250, and Villa on the road is a plus 180. So you've got that. Immediate responsibility for the Villa match. 12th managerial departure in the Premier League this season. 12 out of 20. Well, 12 out of 20 teams. I don't know if you want to count multiple managers, caretakers, and hirings and things. 12th managerial departure in the Premier League this season. 2 more than the previous record in a single campaign. Then Graham Potter became the 13th after his dismissal at Chelsea. 12 was the modern-day record. 10 happened 3 times, according to our friends at Opta. 13, 14, 17, 18, and 21, 22. 9 happened 3 other times. 94, 95, 04, 05, and 08, 09. 3 more in-season departures than any other season in the history of the Premier League. You've got the money that's involved. You've got the financing that's involved. You have teams that are panicking because they don't want to lose their piece in the financing. You've got all of this. Rob Dorsett from Sky, quote, I think they've agonized an awful lot over the decision. It's not an easy decision for Leicester to have made. I think, in truth, a number of Premier League clubs would have pulled the trigger earlier, such has been Leicester's poor form, next to your point. Very highly thought of, Brendan Rodgers in the Leicester hierarchy, very popular in the fan base, a feeling that Brendan Rodgers was building something for the long term at Leicester with all their ambitions to compete with the biggest clubs in the Premier League in years to come. However, it feels to Dorsett that it feels very much a decision that Leicester's bosses have taken for the short term rather than the long term. They felt as though the slide in terms of performances couldn't continue. They've taken this decision with a heavy heart, and his understanding is they gave Rodgers every chance to turn things around. He'd earned that chance. Understanding Leicester do not have a ready-made replacement lined up, no specific time frame they're working to in terms of finding someone to take over. After the defeat at Crystal Palace, Brendan Rodgers in post-match. Football can be cruel. There wasn't a lot in the game. Started the second half really well, scored a fantastic goal. It was a debatable free kick, but Eze finishes it well. After that, we stopped playing, really. Then there wasn't too much created. Final moments of the game, you need that bit of concentration, need to be strong and resolute. Unfortunately, we gave him too much space, but we certainly never deserved that, and I feel for the players. It feels really harsh to have lost the match. We are not at the peak of our confidence, but the players have shown resilience today, and the result is their pain is there. I have to use that going into our next game on Tuesday. David Moyes, this could be a case of the pot and the kettle. Moyes says that Brendan Rodgers won't be out of a job long. So, Nix, here's your run-in, by the way. Here is the run-in for Leicester. And like I said, this probably will be a big discussion for us this morning with all of it. Here's your standings. And we always talk about those 3 groups. Always talk about those 3 groups that we have. Southampton to Crystal Palace, there's a bit of separation with the Crystal Palace win. You now have 7 points separating 9 teams. But really, you have 5 points separating 8 is where you are right now. Like I said, that win by Crystal Palace gave them a bit of separation. Palace had lost 4 in a row before the win. They're at 30 points. Wolves are at 28. West Ham's at 27, ahead of both Forest and Bournemouth on goal difference. Bournemouth have won 2 of 3, by the way, to get out of the relegation zone. It's not really saying much, obviously, with the separation that we're talking about here. West Ham, a goal difference of -9. Forest, and this is where it gets really interesting. Forest, a goal difference of -27. Bournemouth at -28. Because remember those blowouts that they had early in the year when they were trying to figure out who they were? The blowout for Forest, and then the blowout that got Scotty Tuhati fired in Bournemouth. Now they're down to 1 goal separating the two of them at 15th and 16th. Leeds is in 17th right now. They've hit each column in the last 3. And they're ahead of Everton on goal difference, -12 to -18. Relegation fight right now. Everton -18, 26 points. Leicester had lost, 4 of 5. They'd only get the 1 point in their last 5. They're at 25 points and -10. Southampton is at 23 points, and they're at -24. So that's where we are with all of this. That is where we are currently. Yeah, and Villa is unbeaten in their last 5. They've won 4 of their last 5, and they have 13 points in their last 5 matches, and that is what's gotten them up to 9th in the table. Bit of a stunner that they're a dog right now with Leicester, but we always know how tough it is to win on the road. So, Brendan Rodgers. So Leicester's run in. This is for Scotty Tuhati. Yeah, no doubt he does. Badger, you are absolutely correct. Villa at home, Bournemouth at home, Man City at the Etihad. Wolves at home, Leeds at home, Everton at home, Fulham on the road, home to Liverpool, at Newcastle, and home to West Ham, which could decide things. That's a manageable run-in if you're Leicester. Not the toughest on the board. I mean, you do have a couple that are there. At Man City, home to Liverpool, at Newcastle, but the rest of them are pretty manageable. You should be able to get some things done. That's why I didn't think that you would be the team that would be going down, that one of the 3. I mean, I've always thought that Southampton would be one of the 3 because, I mean, they're just absolutely adrift right now, and they're in serious trouble. And when you look at, there are absolutely winnables. So you look at Leicester, I'm not as concerned as some other folks might be. But right now, you look at the table, Arsenal, 8 points clear, but Manchester City have a match in hand. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have a match, if not 2, against each other down the line in the table. So really, you're looking at, 5-point difference with 9 to play. Can be had. Arsenal's got to stumble, though. Newcastle has 2 matches in hand on Arsenal. They're looking to solidify 3rd in European competition. Same with Manchester United. Both of those teams, by the way, have played 27 matches. So they have 1 in hand on Manchester City. They won't catch them. 2 in hand on Arsenal, but they certainly can separate themselves from Spurs, who are at 49 points. And then you get into Group 2. Brighton at 43. Brighton and Brentford, by the way. Brighton's only played 26 matches. They have matches in hand. But the Brighton-Brentford match, by the way, match of the weekend. Absolutely crazy. Brighton and Brentford, it makes sense that they're right there at 6 and 7. Liverpool's in 8. They've lost 2 in a row. Villa's in 9th at 41. We mentioned them. Fulham is 10th. They've lost 3 in a row. Chelsea is at 38 points. They're in 11th. They're 8 points away. Crystal Palace has played 1 more match, and so Chelsea shouldn't worry about dropping into Group 3, but they are in Group 2, which brings us to the other point of the weekend. You've got Graham Potter sacked a day after Chelsea beat Villa. Michael Head, this is where I need your input on behalf of all the Chelsea folks. Julian Nagelsmann has been installed as the favorite to replace Graham Potter. And I think that once Nagelsmann was fired at Bayern, that probably stepped up the timetable to see if Graham Potter could be the guy and not just a guy. And I know that, Michael, you made a point that we get into. Morning, Sam. We will be getting into Atlanta and Red Bulls as we go this morning. But Nagelsmann is your favorite to replace Graham Potter. Appointed as Thomas Tuchel's replacement September 8th on a 5-year deal. And, Michael, to your point, I think one of the best gigs that you could ever get is being appointed as Chelsea manager. Because you know that if Roman Abramovich is the boss, you know that if Bowley Clearlake are the boss, they're going to spend a lot of money. They're going to try to court you and then be frustrated after 18 months, and then they'll let you go. And then you've still got 3.5 years worth of salary. So, on Coco, that's part of the, if Julian Nagelsmann comes in, can Nagelsmann restrain himself from pissing off Chelsea veteran players long enough to actually win something, though? Probably not. Because when you look at what is happening at Chelsea, for one reason or another, owners getting pissed, owners getting impatient. I mean, all right, let's go back a little bit. Michael, you might have the numbers better than me. I wanted to try to find the number of Chelsea managers that have happened here since, say, when did the chaos start? All right, so let's go back to Jose Mourinho, because Ranieri lasted almost 4 years. So let's go back to Jose Mourinho here with Chelsea. Yeah, Gajardo, Sam. Gajardo at Chelsea would be incredible. Yeah. So you piss off Neuer and Mueller, and yeah, that doesn't go well. And then you go on holiday and your players don't. All right, so let's go back to Jose Mourinho. 2004, he was named. 2004. Number of matches for these managers. Mourinho, tour number 1, 185. Avram Grant, 54. Scolari, 36. Scolari lasts less than a year. 36 matches. Gus Hiddink in 09, caretaker, 22. Ancelotti, 109. AVB, 40. Di Matteo, 42. Rafa, 48. Mourinho, part 2, 13 to 15, 136. Steve Holland as a caretaker, won his only match. Hiddink, round 2, 27 as a caretaker. Conte, 106. Sadi, 63. Lampard, 84. Tuchel, 100. Graham Potter, 31. And that brings us to Bruno Saltor. That's where we are. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instances in an 18 and almost a 19-year period. 4 instances of managers who lasted more than 100 matches. 4. Mourinho at 185, Ancelotti at 109, Mourinho part 2 at 136, Conte at 106. 4 times you've had managers run that stuff. I don't think if Nagelsmann is the man, I don't think it. What you're looking for is you're looking for that comet. And like I said, Michael, help me out here if I'm off. You're looking for that comet to send you through the air, get you squared away. It's instant gratification for Chelsea ownership. And it has been ever since Abramovich has been in charge. I'm bringing in the hot guy. I need the results now. If I'm not getting the results now, you're out the door. It is, and Chelsea has proven, whether it's Abramovich or Bowley Clearlake, that they're going to spend money. And it's up to you, sir, to figure out how to make it all blend together. It's not my problem. I'm the one spending the money. It's up to you, sir, to figure out with all these players and all these monopoly pieces that I want to bring in and not have other clubs have them. I want them so you can't. How do you, sir, make sure that we win everything? And then if we don't, chemistry be damned, and trying to get into the build, which is another part of this whole thing. It was, we're confident, the build. We're confident in Graham Potter, and we want him to be a part of the build here at Chelsea under Bowley Clearlake until Nagelsmann becomes available, and that's probably going to be Nagelsmann. We're confident in Graham Potter in the long term. We're confident in Graham Potter until we're not, because we're in 11th right now, and that's unacceptable. All this money that we've invested, all this money that we've spent, all this money that we're going to spend, all this talent that we brought in, and we're where we are in the table in 11th place at 10-8-10, fairly average. You've won 2 of your last 4, so we're done. Absolutely done. So that's where you are. Yeah, exactly. Nagelsmann and big personalities work so well at Bayern. This has, unless, and you know that at the press conference or what have you, the press releases, they're all going to say the right things. Looking forward to whomever the new manager is, whoever the new guy on the touchline is, they'll mention their previous gig. They'll mention that they learned something from the previous gig, and they will have turned things around and look forward to building something very, very special at Chelsea Football Club. Looking forward to the challenge. That's $1 in the jar if that one happens. So you will get, and this is what I'm saying, Michael, and this is, Michael Head, I'm available. I think I could stay at 50% wins, and I'd work for $1 million. Problem solved. But you don't want to sell yourself short. Well, and Bam, we'll get into that. But see, now, Michael, don't sell yourself short. If Bowley Clearlake or if Bowley Clearlake wants to hire Michael Head, what was Graham Potter's salary? See, now you've got me fascinated here. All right, so Graham Potter's salary at Chelsea, £10 million a year, or 12, depending on who you're talking to. The 3-letter paper had him at 10. Other folks had him at 12. So 3-letter paper had him at 10. Believe that information at your own peril. Some were saying 12 million pounds. So, Michael, why sell yourself short for either 10 or 12 instead of saying, you'll do it for $1 million? If Bowley Clearlake wants to pay you 10 or 12, go ahead and say, sure. You can pay me 10 or 12. I'm fine. I'm cool with that. Don't sell yourself short at $1 million. So 5-year deal, somewhere between 50 and 60 million pounds. And after how many matches? 31. 31 matches in all comps, 12, 8, and 11. And Graham Potter's out the door. But no, I know you're not greedy, but don't sell yourself short. So Bam wants the Bobby Bonilla contract, and that's your Google reference for the day. But no, don't sell yourself short. Somebody wants to pay you 10 to 12 million, take it. As long as it's guaranteed, take it. Buyout in there somewhere, fully guaranteed, buyout clause where you've got to pay me X amount in the first 30 days. I mean, look, if it's an SEC, if they're going to pay you like SEC football coaches, don't turn it down. Don't turn it down. Don't sell yourself short. And Bam, you look at, whoever takes over Chelsea has to deal with players on 8-year contracts. What they do is they sign those deals to have the control over the player like a Mudryk, where that way they don't lose them, with a year to go or where they could be lost on a free. They're betting that the player will improve and that they can sell on at a higher rate than what was signed. So the 8 years is all about control and about FFP. So that's what that's about. It's about control over the player, and it's about financial fair play. Because if you sit there and you sign somebody for a release clause plus salary, then you're looking at 8 years. So it's 12 on average, and whatever the average is, from there. So it is all about managing financial fair play, which really is brilliant if you think about it from a Chelsea perspective. You're paying all these high rates, but you sign them to these long-term deals. You see it in baseball all the time. With locally here with the Atlanta Braves signing guys like Matt Olson and all the younger players to long-term deals. You get them in the books early, and you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, it is an expensive mess. It is absolutely an expensive mess. But no, Bam, any kind of contract that you see signed, two things: keeping control of the player as an asset, and making sure that you're not getting bounced because of FFP. Keep those two things in mind always. It's all about, and especially the longer deals. Longer deals have FFP and control of FFP written all over them. That's what that's all about. And it's controlling the price wage. And, Bam, you're right there with it. Yeah, Bam says he'd do it for $1 million a year, but for 40 years. And if he fires me, he's got to pay out the years. And they'd sit there and they'd cut a check because of the TV deal and be like, here, go away. So, yes. So Potter just made $50 million for 31 matches. So 31 matches, 50. So 31. What 31? Oh, so 31 into 50 is 1. So see, now you're having me do math. 31 into 500 is 310. 31 into 190. So it's like 1.6 million a match. Not bad. Not bad if you can get it. Coco would take the $5 million a year, want the remainder in lump sum upon getting fired. That's where your agent comes into play. That's where the agent comes into play. Badgermon, Morning Badger. How about a reverse Ted Lasso and have Potter manage the Dodgers into relegation? That'd be great. So is Mookie Jamie Tart? Mookie Betts is Jamie Tart, maybe. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what if Chelsea wanted to bring over Alex Anthopoulos to help things out with FFP and with salaries, then maybe you could get some things done. It is an expensive mess, Michael. You are spot on. It is an absolutely expensive mess. Absolutely expensive. But when you have folks that have this kind of money and they don't mind, A, throwing that kind of money around, B, they can always write it off as a loss, as a competitive loss and a business expense, then they'll do it. But now this is all about big boy toys, and it's all about, showing financial superiority and business acumen. That's what this is always about. But there's a list of folks. I mean, we're all kind of staring at Nagelsmann as the number one. Potter's number 2, Billy Reed, left the club also. Assistant coach Bjorn Hamburg and goalkeeper coach Ben Roberts will remain. Bruno Saltor appointed interim head coach. Jamie Carragher. Feel for Graham Potter, but it was inevitable. You don't change Tuchel for Potter. Ridiculous decision to start with. Well, once again, we get into, Jamie, folks are just going to get mad at Thomas Tuchel over time anyway. It's going to be like 18 months. 18 months seems to be the creative ceiling in dealing with these individuals. And Bernd, if you're out there and anybody that follows, German soccer or European soccer to the extent that some others do, when you've got a Thomas Tuchel and your creative dissipation light kind of goes away after about 18 months. But once again, if you're in that orbit of chasing after the high-level gigs with the money and the pressure that's involved, you have a very short period of time to sit there and go, all right, we're going to be competitive. We're going to be successful. We're going to continue to do so. The instant that you're not, that's when the ownership group and the front office is going to sit there and try to look for the next big thing. Bottom line, these high-powered gigs with all this money being thrown around, 18 months to 2 years is probably about right. So when you see a big-name club in all capital letters, probably italicized, double-faced font, underlined, exclamated, what have you. Big name club, BNCs. 18 months to 2 years, 2 full seasons, and if you haven't gotten anything done, then you're out the door. That's just the way it is right now. Yeah, it is. Absolutely. It is absolutely the case. Yeah, it is about the game and how you play it. Knicks definitely made it past my Valentine's Day prediction. Never thought this would end well at Chelsea. And yeah, it's all about control and if you can take it. And if they give it to you, which they kind of do, because when the ownership group spends all this money, you had to bring in Nuno. Wow. Yeah, Sean, we'll get into that. About controlling if you can take it. And that's the thing. It's all about it's all about the debt and who's going to pay it. Unless it's going to be written off, and Her Majesty's Royalty and Customs will sit there and go, man, you guys had a bad year. And you'll go, yeah, we did. Sean, I don't know if Graham Potter is Nuno Espirito Santo. Nuno, with his style, bores people to death. It worked at Wolves because he was tied to a certain type of player, and Wolves was happy surviving and being mid-table in the Premier League. And if you had a great keeper like Jose Sa, and you had a stout defense and you worked down your spine and you occasionally had like a Diogo Jota before you sold him, then you're going, yeah, absolutely. It is, Will. You see, that's how everything is a circle on this show. Sports entertainment and soccer. Nuno bores people to death. Goalless draws, 1-0, waiting for those opportunities, and you're going, it's a painful watch. Absolutely. It is absolutely true, Will. Applies to running a money-rich soccer team. Now, if we can only get Lemmy, God rest his soul, to come back and sing it and apply it to soccer. I wonder who Lemmy's favorite soccer team is. Let's find out. Lemmy Kilmister. Did Lemmy have a favorite soccer team? That's, I guess, the biggest question. Let's see. So, Motorhead. Oh, he probably was in Newcastle. Moved with his or Stoke. Born in Stoke-on-Trent, Burslem, an area of Stoke-on-Trent. So maybe, so my guess is it's either Stoke or Newcastle. So he's born in Stoke, raised in Newcastle. So that would be who I would guess Lemmy was fans of growing up, if he was attached to anybody. If he was a soccer guy, that would be my guess. But you're going to bring in, you're going to bring in the shiny object. You're going to bring in that individual. So looking at the favorites, and I know that, like I said, we're all staring at Nagelsmann as being the favorite. We all are. So, yeah. The managers Chelsea want to interview to replace Graham Potter. This is Matt Law at The Telegraph. So, Nagelsmann has made the early favorite. Worked in the past with sporting director Lawrence Stewart and Chelsea's technical director Christopher Vivell at RB Leipzig. So there's your in. Sources are adamant, according to Matt Law. Chelsea job is not Nagelsmann's to turn down at this stage. Chelsea expected to interview Pochettino and Luis Enrique, who are both out of work. Likely to be sought talks with Spalletti at Napoli, and at least one more candidate, which might include Eintracht Frankfurt's Oliver Glasner. All of them have different approaches. And remember, Boli and Bedadik Bali, they didn't have a sporting team to lean on. They hired Potter themselves. Only interviewed the two candidates, Potter and Pochettino. And so now, and Michael, you can help answer this question. Did Chelsea pay the price for not having a sporting director and just having the owners be the ones who sat there and did the interviewing and hired Graham Potter? Potter's pedigree, and I've come around on this, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that he deserted Swansea City. Potter's pedigree is that of the build. Got Swansea to a place, got Brighton to a place, working within budgets. Then he was hired at Chelsea. So now, Bowley and Egbali have now put Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley, the sporting directors, in charge of figuring out who the next manager is going to be. Unlikely to be present in all the initial interviews, won't need to base themselves full-time in the UK during the search. Chelsea are aware. Spurs are looking for a new manager. Real Madrid, PSG could enter the manager market at the end of the year. They probably will. Sources are adamant the availability of Nagelsmann and Tottenham's decision to part ways with Conte did not influence the time of their decision on Potter. Once again, this is Matt Law of The Telegraph. All I would say to that is wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sure you do, sure you do. But there is recognition, once again, quoting Matt Law, that leaving a change until the summer could have put Chelsea's back against the wall in terms of finding the right replacement. Reports in Germany claim Nagelsmann would be interested in taking the permanent Chelsea job, but that he would prefer to have a break and wait until the summer before starting working. Chelsea players obviously were stunned by the sacking. Once again, from our friends at The Telegraph, and once again, Matt Law. Chelsea's owners already know Nagelsmann's agent well, having negotiated the sale of Timo Werner, whom he also represents. Dismissal. 2 managers sacked in less than a year, having spent over £600 million on players. Club in the bottom half of the table. So that's where you are. One source told The Telegraph, quote, most of the players had no idea until they saw the statement. People were asking who would be taking training on Monday, who's in charge for Tuesday. Virtually all of them were in recovery or training on Sunday, so they were shocked to find this out at home. 10 Premier League games and a Champions League quarterfinal tie with Real Madrid to come. Something needed to be done to try to salvage the season, give Chelsea an outside chance of qualifying for Europe. I don't think that's going to happen because you'd have to basically run in the run-in. And a lot of folks are saying that this was a ridiculous decision to start with. I wouldn't necessarily say that if you wanted someone who was going to be a part of a build and have the patience of a build. But once again, we talk about money and power and influence, and it's your toy, and it's like, no, I want the shinier toy, and I want to do, I want to do what I think is right because it's my money that's being invested, and I've invested all this money, and I'm not getting my rate of return. So then you sack your manager. So that's where you're at. Easier, according to Luke Edwards, the sacking illustrates it's easier to fail as a British manager ever than before. Hired and fired in haste, according to Luke Edwards. Fired in haste, sure. Hired in haste, I'm not, like I said, if you're looking for a build, then Potter was your guy. You claimed to have the patience of a build. But contrary to what is being said in the Telegraph, I don't think that the patience was there once Julian Nagelsmann was made available. I just don't. I don't think the patience was there because, once again, you're looking for results. You're looking for instant results. Then, hey, look, Julian Nagelsmann's available. We've already negotiated stuff with his agent before. We know them. So what do? Yeah, oh, look, Nagelsmann's available. Sorry, Graham. And seriously, I would love to see the tax statement or the business statement for Bowley Clear Lake and all this. And Michael, that's probably part of it too. But considering everything, Michael's saying that you should have kept Marina Granovskaya, who was a wizard, and Petr Cech. Yeah, no doubt. You should have kept Granovskaya and Petr Cech. But, think about it. as much as Maria Granovskaya was an absolute wizard when it came to structuring contracts, bringing in folks, and being the negotiator, and Petr Cech that you had in your front office, how many times, especially in this day and age, when it comes to a business, any business, we can call it, whatever. It's a widget, it's a widgetry, whatever they call widget businesses. How many times have we seen, more recently than really ever, someone buys a business and they want to put their stamp on it? It's my business, it's my money, I'm going to invest it in the way that I want to. And then you see things happen, lack of patience, desire for instant results. And then it's everyone else's fault. It's like the scene in Stripes when all of the guys chasing after Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, and the RV, they take the wrong turn. They go into Czechoslovakia. It's like going to Wisconsin. No offense, Badger. That was the line from the movie. You're going and you're trying to chase after your platoon, and you get stuck in the Czechoslovakian. Camp. Then you've got Jean Larroquette in his German tourist outfit, and he's pointing at all of them, and he's pointing at everybody in the platoon, going, "If it wasn't for you, we would." I don't know, Sam. That's an interesting question. We'll bring that up in a second. John Larroquette is pointing at all of the soldiers in the platoon, blaming them for the problem, when we all knew it was John Larroquette that was the problem in the first place. He was not fit to lead the platoon, and at the end of the movie, he ends up going to Alaska, and he's doing things at the, in the northern outpost. So basically, you see a lot of times when folks with these new businesses, they'll either put folks in charge or do things on their own and cause the problems, and then they're like, "You, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be in this mess." So you're going to get that, and we've got that a lot in a lot of businesses these days. But since we're talking about what's going on, it's my money, I've invested it, and it's your and it's your fault. I've given you all of these things, and it's your fault. Or in Spurs' case, I've given you this, and you haven't done. It's like, here's a fridge, and it's got like some milk and maybe 3 eggs and some other things and some fruit, and you got to make a meal. And you didn't make the right meal. It didn't taste good, so it's your fault. Not the fact that the fridge wasn't completely full. And there's like a bottle of Michelob and some milk that's been opened and things like that, and you're trying to figure that stuff out. So that's the difference between Chelsea and Spurs. Yes. So Spurs was actually thinking about Potter before hiring Conte, and that would fit. It would have fit, I think. I think it would have fit. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time because I've heard through my headphones the sound of thunder. Makes me sit down. I've sat and wondered. Although I'm not hearing a song from 1962. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if the power goes out, even though we have, we are properly insulated here in Office HD. Might be one of those mornings where we're drifting in and out. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time. But if you're looking for someone to be patient in a build, maybe Graham Potter should have been your choice instead of once again going for the shiny guy. Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. Spurs need, Spurs need. Just ask Sean about Daniel Levy. Ask Sean about Daniel Levy and what he thinks about Daniel Levy. This has turned into Prem and Proper, by the way. That'll be out later today. couple of shows out later today, by the way. Weekend review and Prem and Proper from Major League Soccer and Prem and Proper. They'll be out later today. USL Championship and League One stuff will be out later this week. We'll be in Statesboro for the Open Cup. We're going to try to catch up with a lot of folks this week dealing with Open Cup matchups. I know Thursday we'll be catching up, win or lose, with our friends from Appalachian FC with Dale Parker, the head coach, and Charlie Bales, the assistant GM of the Des Moines Menace, because Des Moines is going to have Chattanooga working their way up north for the Wednesday matchups. But, yeah, we'll be on the road. Latter part of the week, we'll be in Statesboro Thursday morning after Open Cup, and we'll talk to some friends there. But, yeah, big team, a big Open Cup week here at SDH. Yeah, you do need they did. Yeah, strange. I know. Sean, Atlanta United played this weekend, but this is where we started this morning. Yeah, and Kane needs to make up his mind. Badgers think about to get rid of ENIC. And yes, they played against a team from Newark. Well, not Newark, Harrison, New Jersey, by the way. It was Harrison, New Jersey. And that was why I felt compelled to bring in a New York adjacent singer to help us out with Prescription for Victory for those of you that went to the match. Yeah, I felt compelled to do that. But, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a build, yeah, EWR, exactly. ATL defeated EWR. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, I think that if you needed someone who was more patient and could deal with a budget, Graham Potter would have made more sense. He did it Brighton. He did it Swansea. You saw the end results. But no, Spurs went for the shiny object. Tell you what, since we mentioned the lifespan of managers at Chelsea, let's see what, and Sean, I do not mean this as an element here, but here's your managers. We'll go back the same amount of time. We'll go back the same amount of time that we did with Chelsea. Caretaker manager David Pleat, 03. Santini, Joel, Allen and Inglethorpe were caretakers in 07. Wande Ramos, Allen and Inglethorpe were caretakers again in 08. Then Eri came in. Viesh Boas, Tim Sherwood, Pochettino, Mourinho, Ryan Mason, Nuno, Conte. That's where we are. So I'm if you needed to build, you probably went in a different direction. You should have gone in a different direction. But once again, it's about big boys and big boy toys. Big boys and big boy toys. It's my toy, but you need to treat it well. And if you don't treat it well enough, then I'm bringing somebody else to come in and mess with my toys. All right. Heading to hour number 2, we went to Premier League down here this morning. We went to Prem and Proper to start things off. All right, get your thoughts in the queue for Atlanta United and Red Bulls, for ATL versus EWR, as Sean Vergara refers to it. The team from Harrison, New Jersey that came here and tried to drive folks crazy. We'll go through the numbers. And if there's anything else on your mind from the Prem, obviously we can talk about that. Like I said, that's what Mondays are for. Mondays are for everything to be put on the table. Like I said, most of the week we'll be talking a lot of Open Cup with some guests. And obviously we'll have our normal guest spots and everything. Thursday's going to be a big Open Cup day. Tomorrow we'll try to have some Open Cup in there as well. Dylan and Bart will be hopping in as they do traditionally on Wednesdays. And then Friday is Friday. But, yeah, Tuesday and Thursday is what we're going to be staring at with Open Cup and trying to do things well with Open Cup as well. So it's going to be a very, very busy week across the board with all this stuff. But since it is past the top of the hour, it is time to read the promo. And we will certainly do that. So I've got to take the music out of loop, take it down to 13, put it in rock, and it's time to read a promo. For the first time this week, we get to catch up with our friends at the Lemonized Service. Odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go, and it is our friends at the Lemonized. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, the Lemonized Service has created a customized solution that lemonizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonized Service to lemonize bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easier to work with said realtors and property managers. kind of the environment, offering a green way to go about things without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach under the sink or above us in the cupboard to bring out said masking agent, you spray the masking agent in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent. It's because you're masking up the odors. You're not attacking the issue all the way down to the molecule like our friends at the Lemonized Service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, and come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. And that's what is over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch, as well as the QR code that you can click. But after you do the .com, and this is where I pick up my pen, we have a favor that we need to ask of you. Go to Eliminize.com, but then go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world, meaning Eliminize, that Eliminize knows that you are addressing them from, so they can help you attack your issues. Full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of Everything SDH on a Monday. Welcome back to another week about talking about soccer. Like I said, very, very busy week. Open Cup, we got we got Champions League coming up in another week or so that we can talk about as well. But obviously, MLS Next Pro, we got on the board. Open Cup is big this week, so we'll talk about a lot about that this week and anything else on your mind, as we traditionally do here on SDH on a Monday. U.S. Okay. All right. So Ricky says the new U.S. soccer kits are out. So, man, we know what that means. With the new soccer kits out, that means one thing and one thing only. And we'd like to thank Ricky for posting as our intrepid treasure hunter during the show that Ricky chases after these kinds of things. So that means this. And it's broadcast tonight. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this already, and I'm going, nope. Can't do it. Like I said, Ricky, thanks for posting this. I like, and like I said, being someone of a certain vintage, I like the socks. I like the socks, the very Zubazzy looking socks deal. But what Nike has done is made it incredibly difficult for announcers at a distance, especially in poorly lighted places, to try to figure out who's dealing with the ball. That's what you've done. You look absolutely familiar. All right. The one that has been released, fake collar, red swooshes to make the fake collar, presented by our friends from the Swoosh in Oregon. Red logo, and I'm guessing red numerals on the back. But yeah, that's an announcer's nightmare. I can't do that. I can't. Nope, I can't do it. Can't do it. Nope. Can't do it. So once again, U.S. Soccer and Nike, they can't get it right. Go back in the chat. What am I going back in the chat for? What did I do? I did miss some things. Okay. So we'll repost them. You want me to go back in the chat? It takes entirely too long. Repost if I miss something. All right. So, yes. And I've got to pull this drop. And, Sam, I'm right there with you. That Boom Yakamakis might be the greatest thing Mike has ever said on radio. Well, I mean, short of the city of Atlanta has a champion and it's Atlanta United. I've got to pull Boom Yakamakis. That's the bottom line. I have to pull that drop. Sean should have won 3-0, played well, very prepared. Only beef is the highlight package and MLS wrap-up show made it look like the Newark Red Bulls played well. All right, so let's go over the numbers. Once again, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore on the day. And I am going to continue to espouse the virtues of Miguel Ibarra. and how he has continued to just blow things up as he has become more and more comfortable with life in Major League Soccer. So, Red Bulls are going to frustrate the hell out of you. That's what they do. That's their thing. All right. So here's your stats and your numbers. Stats on the day for Atlanta United. 59-41 in possession. No real surprise. Total shots 15-8 Red Bull. 4-2 on target. So half of Atlanta's shots were on target. Only 2 were on target for Red Bull. 15 fouls apiece. And we can really get into the we can get into Alex Chilowitz if you want. There were moments where I thought that Alex was, be consistent, and he was. You may not have liked how he was consistent, but he was consistent. But there were moments where I completely disagreed with the calls that were made. I don't know how Corey Burke didn't get a red, because that was dangerous. I'm sorry. I don't know how Corey Burke didn't get a red for going in on Brad Gazan the way that he did. And then after the fact, you have Burke staying down about he's the one who's being injured after he plows into Brad. He fits. He fit the style in Philly. He fits the style in Harrison. And then he had a foul in short order. And I'm wondering about one of the other things. And when Bart comes on Wednesday, I'm going to ask about persistent infringement and how he monitors persistent infringement as a ref. That is one of the things that gets me. When you see teams like Harrison and Philly doing what they do, and I give them credit for doing this. I absolutely give them credit for doing this. They find that edge. They go right up to the edge with a particular individual. Then someone else, because that person's right up to the edge, then they will find someone else to go right up to that edge. And it's all about making sure that you find where the edge is, go right up to the edge. You don't get a card. You get that no mas, you get the waving off, then it's somebody else's turn. I don't know how Corey Burke didn't get a red for going in on Brad Gazan. I don't know how the clattering or coming together or whatever you want to call it with Coronel and Thiago Almada was not dog-so. So for me with Alex Chilowitz, it was moments. We knew going in that he calls about 20 fouls a match. He called 30 in this one because, once again, that's how Red Bull operate. And then Atlanta United, standing up for their teammates and one another, they weren't going to back down from anything. And it was something that when you've got Brad Gazan as your captain coming all the way up the center circle, sitting there and getting in people's faces, you know that it's out that you're not backing down from anybody. And I like how the team has come together, especially after what happened the week before. 15 fouls called, but I had 30. Chilowitz on average calls 20. Gives, I think, an average of 4 or 5 yellows per match this season. And he gave 10 in this one. 10 yellows. 6 to Red Bulls, 4 to Atlanta. Big chances, both on Atlanta United side, 3 and 2. Big chances missed. Shots inside the box, 10-4 for Red Bull. Outside, 5-4. Cornell had 3 saves. Brad had 2. The passing numbers absolutely, just were mind-boggling at points. 55 out of 110 in the first half at one point for Red Bull. On the day, Atlanta passed at 79%. Red Bull at 72%. Long balls, 38 long balls to 21. 38 long balls to 21. 2 crosses for Red Bulls. Possession lost was 50-50. Duels won 50-50. And Red Bulls won more Red Bulls won more duels, 19 of the 34. Atlanta had more tackles. Red Bulls had more picks, but because this is what they do. They will want you to play in a phone booth, and every single time they step into a passing lane or they lull you to sleep and they want you to try to make that long, lazy pass where you've got to be really confident, that's when they step in, create short fields, quick turnaround, try to get a shot on goal. Like I said, they don't want the ball. Ball's got cooties. They don't want possession. They want to hunt in packs. They want to pin you in. They want short fields. They want to be clinical. That's what Red Bull want. What Atlanta United did, 24 clearances to 13, by the way, and 17 picks to 7 for Red Bull. What Atlanta United did, until there were those moments when they were fatigued, and you can't be mentally fatigued against Red Bull at all. You have to be on for the full 90 minutes. Red Bull can be had at the end of halves and the end of games because of this style, but you have to be mentally sharp for a full 90 minutes. A full 90 minutes, you have to be sharp. Because there were those moments, and I know that there were a lot of you who were driven crazy, where you would see a pass that didn't have a lot on it and was picked off. There were those moments, but once again, that's what Red Bull do. Red Bull force you to have to think like you're fighting in a phone booth for 90 minutes. We saw it on Saturday. We saw it on Sunday. And it's up to the opposition who, and I give Gonzalo Pineda a lot of credit, they didn't change who they were. Atlanta United did not change who they were personality or philosophically wise. And they did their thing with all of the short passing that was there to advance, with the room that was there in the middle that we knew was going to be there, with Yorgos Giacomakis and Luis Araujo and Caleb Wiley up top, especially with what Giacomakis was able to do, and draw the lines further from the 18, that back line, draw it further forward so Atlanta United could work in behind. And you saw some great passing and some great diagonals that were crisp when they needed to be. But yes, there probably should have been at least another goal on the board, should have been more clinical and things like that. Couple of players that I wanted to focus on. Getting into the numbers, obviously, once again, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. There were 6s and 7s across the board. Juanjo Parata rebounded, got a 7.3 from SofaScore. Franco Ibarra. Let me get into Franco Ibarra's numbers for you here. Franco Ibarra, coming into the match, was number 2 in Major League Soccer in dispossession, in tackles. So here's his numbers on the day. Played all 90, 77 touches, 77% passing, 40 of 52. 4 of 5 on his long balls. 2 successful dribble attempts. 14 of 22 on his duels. 12 of 16 on the ground. 2 of 6 in the air. 2 fouls. He was fouled 5 times. 5 clearances. 5 clearances. 5 tackles. An interception. 12 of 16 on ground duels. 2 of 6 in the air, so 14 of 22. 14 of 22 in duels on the day against Red Bulls. He was fouled 5 times, 5 clearances, 5 tackles, and a pick. That's what you're getting out of Franco Ibarra right now. Continually driving teams crazy. Great work by Franco Ibarra. Giacomakis, just under a 7. Luis, just under a 7. Thiago, a 7.3. Derek Etienne Jr., great to see Derek Etienne working after putting in 73 minutes. So, Amar Sejdic had a 6.5. Miles with a yellow had a 6.8. Brooks had a 7.2. Those kinds of things. So, those are some of the early numbers. Whatever you guys want to get into here in hour number 2, we will. Ropes. Have to say that Red Bull pressure was effective, sloppy giveaways in dangerous areas. Yeah, true. But once again, it goes to the point that they're going to push you and pressure you for a full 90 minutes. Literally, they're like the bully in school. That you remember when you were in high school when you had the bully that just wanted to mess with you, and they didn't quite know how to respond when you punched them in the teeth. That's what you get with Red Bull. They're going to sit there. They're going to poke at you. Red Bulls are going to poke at you. They're going to poke. They're going to do the thing on the shoulder. They're going to push your shoulder. They're going to push your other shoulder. Come on. You know, fight. Let's fight. Then it's up to you. You know, when they keep doing that, when you've had enough to respond, and that's what Atlanta United did. Sean, thank you for the grading. Let's see, -1 for the weird pause, -1 for masking, +3 for a win, -4 for QR codes that can't be clicked. How can you not click a QR code? Well, then just go to the website. 7.4. Thank you. Yeah, Sam, refereeing abysmal Saturday. Other than a good, gritty game, both teams look good. Will, you missed the Hunt City match. We'll get into the 2's, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, Miles is still a freaking beast. This is a healthy Miles Robinson. This is what happens when you have, and we talked about him. It's almost like you're having a free safety, like an Ed Reed type, and it's so much fun to watch. It is so much fun to watch with Miles. So let me get into Miles's numbers now that we're thinking about it. Since you mentioned that, let's see Miles's numbers on the day with the yellow. He got a 6.8, and he needed to do that foul at the time. 3 clearances, 2 tackles, 1 dribble passed, 6 for 10 on his duels, 51 of 62, 82% passing on 72 touches, 5 of 10 on long balls. 5 of 10 on his long balls. So that's where Miles was, 5 of 10. And it was Miles that got the play going with the big switch that created opportunities too. So yeah, Ricky on the kits, better than the last round of kits, low bar to clear, but still. White with blue speckles. I like the white with blue speckles. I actually do. Yeah. Will, I need Franco Ibarra thunderstrike like I need air to breathe. And yes, Sam, Franco Ibarra, boy, got that dog in him. And anyone that thinks that Franco Ibarra, I will challenge anyone on Franco Ibarra for what you're seeing with the evolution of Franco Ibarra to where we are, and seeing all of these numbers. Fantastic stuff to see. Great to see what we're staring at from Franco Ibarra as he's evolving as a talent. Yeah, Ricky, like I said, we can talk about the ref and all you want. Like I said, I thought Chilowitz was consistent. That's what you want. And like I said, when Bart comes on Wednesday, we can talk about this as a part of the collective. And that's why I like to have Bart on, in addition to talking about kits and things and women's national team, men's national team, and all that kind of stuff. I like to get his perspective on refereeing. And when you have these kinds of things working your way forward like this, I want to have consistency in my refereeing. You got that? I want to get into talking to Bart about overcorrecting and possibly the idea of having to. I know that we always come out, if you have a consistent set of refereeing, whatever that is, you could be calling it tightly from the beginning, fine. You're calling it tightly, I get it. You're being consistent. If you're calling it loosely and letting them play, cool. But don't overcorrect unless the game is really getting out of control and you feel the need to overcorrect. I mean, like Corey Burke overcorrecting. Something like that, like playing Philly when they drive you nuts, that kind of an overcorrecting. But the thing about playing Philadelphia, and I know that Rich Ransom, if you're watching today or if you're listening today, like I said, I will give you full credit before I get into the rest of my statement. I will give Philly and Red Bull full credit for playing the way you play. That's who you are. You stick to it. You go right up to the edge, And then you figure out how you can get up to the edge with other folks. I get it. That's you. I get it. I don't like it, but that's you and that's your DNA and that's your fabric. I understand it. I think that when center refs have matches involving, say, Red Bull in this case, you know what you're going to be getting. They're going to be, like I said, it's a knife fight in a phone booth. And it's going to be that way for 90 minutes because that's who Red Bull are. And like we saw with Red Bull 2 and Atlanta United 2, you got the same thing, but you got the most Red Bull goal that you could ever think of. Wiki Carmona in the box. Swear to God, there were 37 people in the box. It deflects like 9 times. Carmona gets the, picks up the junk and puts it in the back of the net, and you end up with a 1-1 draw heading to PKs. When Atlanta United had scored early on. Eric Lopez, by the way. Eric Lopez had a great night last night. To start, a couple of other chances where he should have been more clinical. And I understand also the desire to be unselfish and get others integrated into the offense. But he should have at least had one more. And then the pinballing that happened in the box and Carmona getting his second goal of the year for Red Bull 2 would not have happened. Or if it would have happened, it wouldn't necessarily have mattered as much. But Red Bull play a certain way. Philadelphia play a certain way. Alex Chilowitz called 30 fouls. He's used to calling 20. Giving up 4 or 5 yellows a match, he gave up 10. Something's there. So, yeah, Burke, for me, should have been a red, should have been sent off. But I know at the same time, you can't, you don't, and once again, we can get into this on Wednesday as well, or all week. What you don't want to do, unless it's as egregious as I thought the Corey Burke contact with Brad was, you don't want to set a tone early on of, okay, I'm going to call this a certain way. But you clattered into a keeper, and it looked like, he almost like hyperextended his knee. And then Burke stays down, and he's the one who's like, oh, I'm injured. The Sanford son bit. Elizabeth, I'm coming. One of those. I had issues with some of the calls Chilowitz made. I understand his philosophy of wanting to call things a certain way. So, if that makes any sense. I had issues with moments with Alex Chilowitz. I didn't necessarily have issues with his consistency, if that makes sense. So that's where I am with Chilowitz. But yeah, I think Corey Burke should have been sent off, and then he had fouls. Then he had a foul like a couple of minutes later, and and then Caceres on Ibarra on the payback. So Ibarra takes Caceres' lunch and his lunch money, and then Caceres decides he wants to try to get some payback. That should have been a card. Standards changed and so Coco, to my point, I don't mind. So I don't mind if the game gets so out of control. If you call things a certain way, and if the game gets out of control to where you have to overcorrect, I get it. Yeah, how can you call a game tight and loose at the same time? Ricky, you can't. You shouldn't. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you have a certain mindset, but then if it goes over the edge and you've got to bring it back, you've got to, pull the reins back on the horse so the horse doesn't take you into the forest and, you're out of control. I get it. But there were moments for me with Alex Chilowitz that I had issues with. So I get his philosophy. I disagree with it. But there were moments where I think that things should have been done differently, especially going up against a Red Bulls team where you called 30 fouls and you're used to only calling 20 and you're used to only giving up 4 yellows and you give up 10. That should tell you something about, one, the style of play that the team that was coming into town was playing, and 2, how you were administering what your philosophy was. Yeah. And the dog Will, that you're talking about with Cornell and Thiago Almada. Yeah, I thought that Cornell should have been dog. Yeah, I think that should have been. I think that should have been a very orange card, and I think it also should have been dog so. So I'm right there with you on that. Yeah, and that's the other part. Knicks. Yeah, Giakoumakis. And this was the part that I missed that I forgot to ask folks about. What happened in the 50s? Because what happened in the 50s where Brad is working his way to center circle? This is where I need your help because it was a moment that I missed because I was in the bowels of the building and didn't find out what was going on. So what was going on where everyone's together and Brad is like all the way up to center circle? What did I miss there? So let me know. So ropes. Brad was dribbling and was a field player, sloppy tackle. Brad wouldn't get the same protection since he's dribbling. True. Ref lost all control from Knicks. Like his goal against Toronto that was called back, Gigi's reaction time is immaculate. Yes. And that's the beautiful thing about what you're seeing with Giakoumakis. And the other part from Giakoumakis that I note that you notice is that he's back. I mean, he is back at he's back in his own 18. He's back close to the 6, having to defend when he needs to. There were moments late where I saw him working on the far end line, on his defensive end line, helping out defensively. You saw the same from Thiago. You saw the same from Luis. You saw the same from Derek Etienne Jr. You saw it from Gigi. You saw all of these guys working back defensively. That to me was very, very cool. It's integral to what Gonzalo Pineda wants to do, but the fact that you've got your forwards all the way back to their own defensive end line, having to defend late, no qualm about it whatsoever. Love it. Fantastic stuff. No, Sam. Joseph has not scored. Five in a row that he has not scored in. Sam, love Joseph, kind of happy he hasn't scored yet and sounds terrible of you because you want him to do good, but no, it's not for a team in MLS unless it's y'all. No, I get it. I don't know if he's waiting to drop a hat trick on Atlanta United Knicks. Yeah, basically Sam's telling Knicks, don't put that evil on us. Yeah, Miles and Purata cleaned up some mistakes, and that's the thing. It's like, being disciplined for 90 minutes against Red Bulls, you've got to be disciplined. You've got to be on the whole time. And there were moments last night in Kennesaw and Saturday night in Mercedes-Benz where you could tell the guys were getting tired. Mentally, they were getting kind of tired, but they pushed through it. There will be matches in seasons where you will have to suffer. There will be matches where you will suffer. Philadelphia comes to mind. Red Bull comes to mind. And it's how you respond and how you react in those moments of suffering that can do well for you later in the year when you're searching for an answer against a team like this that will drive you crazy. Searching for answers about yourself, and you can go back to past evidence and go, we pushed through in these moments, we can push through in these new moments as well. And I know a lot of folks were looking at Hosechu late. For me, I would have taken it to the corner, but I understand the idea of wanting to bury it late. Yeah, well, ropes, fouls called and fouls, as we've been talking about here in the first half, in the second half hour, could be entirely different things. Tolkien was an interesting question, Sam. We were all wondering what was up with John Tolkien and why he wasn't in the lineup. And it was very, very interesting not seeing Tolkien in the lineup. Trying to find my notes, my pregame notes. All right, so that's Red Bulls. Where are my Red Bull notes? I don't know what Soju is, but the Soju partner was named. Okay, so match preview. Let me see here. What was... All right, so game notes. I'm going back to my game notes. So here's... don't know, because he was not listed. Serge Ngoma was listed as out. The only one listed as out was Ngoma. No one was listed as questionable. So trying to find an answer, on John Tolkien. Yeah, it's just very, very intriguing. Trying to find an answer on John Tolkien. And like I said, I'm buzzing through my game notes real quick. And I am not seeing. Tolkien had played in every match. 5 for 5, 2 assists. Led the team in assists so far. But yeah, no word on John Tolkien. So that was, and like I said, that was an interesting dynamic. I'll check the QR codes. Yeah, I didn't think the match was 11v11. Yeah, didn't think it was going to, especially. Yeah, I mean, early on, I could have seen it losing a man like twice for Red Bull, definitely. Did Almada play against Red Bull last season? Looked like he hadn't played against this type of press before. Still good. Clearly didn't realize how they're sitting on the square balls and switches. Well, and also remember that you're coming off of an international window. So a mortal Thiago Almada, you still take a mortal Thiago Almada instead of no Thiago Almada. Let me find my game notes on Atlanta United and see if we have Almada's career notes. Well, that's Columbus. That's Columbus notes. That's not Columbus. Media resources. See, and I know this is making for incredibly compelling radio. Let's see. Club. Actually, let me do it this way, Bernd. Let me see if I can find career stats, match log. I'll do it this way. So, World Cup, Red Bulls. Yeah, he played against Red Bull last year in August. Played full 90 minutes in a 2-1 loss. And he also played. Let me see if I can find the other activity in 2022. Like I said, I'm scanning his entire Major League Soccer life. So yeah, he played against Red Bull last year. Played against Red Bull, played 90 minutes, and I think he got the assist in the 2-1 loss. So that's the short answer. Miles is playing the Rashford game, betting on himself to get the big money. Yeah, I mean if Miles has been doing that, you're gonna want to get that kind of a contract, and also maybe you get interest from Europe. Let's see what happens there. But we'll see what's up with Miles. And Sam, I know that you're looking at the return of Ozzy soon. Don't have a timeline yet. Don't have a timeline on Ozzy, but waiting to see if there's anything involving Ozzy, because to have that kind of experience, especially late in the year down a stretch, and also when you're dealing with multiple competitions. We always talk about this. You need the depth that you have with Atlanta United. You need healthy depth too. You've got Open Cup, Leagues Cup, Major League Soccer season. Could be playing 50 matches. You're going to want to have Ozzy. I would like to have Ozzy healthy later in the year. I want him at 100%. I want his hair at 100%. Later in the year, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for Ozzy. So get him healthy, have him around for the competitions later in the year. Right now, I think you're okay. Burned about Ibarra. Still think he struggles if the forward line doesn't press well like last season with Joseph. Opponents come at him full speed. Really good in the current setup. Absolutely. Sam. Oh, yeah. When can I talk about Ted Lasso? Did we say that I have to wait until Friday mornings? Or can we talk about the first 3 episodes now, waiting for episode number 4, now that the week has changed? Actually, Sam, probably the way that it is that it's structured. Sam, I wonder if Zlatan watches Ted Lasso because Zava is clearly him. I think that Ted Lasso watches Zlatan. Zlatan does not watch Ted Lasso. It's probably the best way that I can phrase it. Yeah, and Knicks. This was the other one. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this one. The other one in this where excuse me, where it looked like Luis got clipped. Looked like he got clipped on the ankle. He goes down. And then you have Luis turn around and have comments for Chilowitz. And because apparently the words were mean, you got a yellow for dissent. I thought that was silly too. But yeah, I thought Luis got clipped at the beginning of all that stuff. I'll go back and look at it, but I thought he got clipped, and I thought it was warranted. But then for Chilowitz to give a yellow for being mouthy, no. Mm-mm. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ropes. Let's see. Do you think it's an adjustment if you've never played a Red Bulls team before getting into Thiago? In Brazil, there is a Red Bulls team, but obviously not in Argentina. Yes, Bragantino. Yeah. Coco believes Bragantino doesn't play true Red Bull style anyway. And okay, so if you're not caught up on Lasso, that's on you. Yes, absolutely true. So Sean, red card from Chilowitz for not being caught up on Lasso. Let's see. All right, so this is just me thinking out loud. This is me on Ted Lasso. And then once again, we got like 20 minutes, so whatever is on your mind, whether it's Premier League, I may go all the way back in the beginning of the timeline to go back over some stuff. So now that it's Monday and we're getting ready for episode 4, here's my end game on all of this. First off, if Hannah Waddingham does not win another Emmy, that's a crime, especially after this performance. I always see Sassy coming after Ted in low points in his life. I wonder if, if Sassy ever goes to look at, and Ted in other elements of his life. Well, I mean, it was no, I take it back because after they beat, was it Everton in season 1? Then it was a happy moment. So, but then it was a sad moment at the end of the night after the panic attack. So, it's just it's you see Sassy coming back to see Ted after low points. Here's what I think happens after the visit with the psychic. Here's what I think, and this is my theory. You can agree with me or no. All right, so the psychic tells Rebecca, "You're going to be a mom." And then Rebecca goes and just lights into her. I think what happens is eventually Ted and Rebecca get together. Rebecca becomes Teddy's stepmother. That's how she gets a family. The green matchbook. I don't think it has to do with Sam's restaurant. I think that's a red herring. I think that what you will end up with is if you look at Ted when he writes his game notes, it is a green match book. So I think that all the points are pointing toward Ted and Rebecca here. Like I said, that's just me. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm staring at here. I think that Roy and Keeley get back together. I think that that's end game. I think that Ted leaves. Like I said, I have no basis in fact in any of this. I think that Roy becomes head coach. I think Beard stays. Beard can never be a head coach because of everything that we've seen with Jane over the last 2+ seasons. Going back and, he's with her, he's not, he's with her, he's not, he's with her, he's not. I think Beard is a fantastic assistant coach. I think Roy turns into the head coach. I think they finish higher than West Ham. I think Rupert fires Nate. I think Zava it's an interesting plot line, but I think that Jamie learns from Roy and becomes the player that he's always wanted to be. And I think he turns into something better than Zava. So I'm trying to think of all of my other main characters. Roy, Keely, Rebecca, I think, and I think that's, oh, okay. No, it's like I said, Coco, it's all theories. It's all theories. Yeah, so it's all theories, no facts. Okay, all theories. I'm hoping ropes. I hope not. I hope not. True. Now, see now. Uh, let's see. True, but then does Peter Vermes allow for Ted to be in Kansas City? That's my question. Does he sign up for a gig with Sporting Kansas City? Does he go home? Because there was the one sign that they showed on the doors of the trailers that said Kansas. So, which MLS team should Ted coach? Should and now are we talking in the series, Ogier, or are we talking independently? I would, yeah, it's got to be Sporting. I would think it would have to be Sporting. Would have to be Sporting, I would think. But I don't know. Maybe he'd get into a fight with Peter. Yeah, Peter won't be in the show. Absolutely. Okay, so, yeah, so, okay, so Coco. Okay, I think for Coco's sake, I think we'll call time and talk about other things, gossip, rumor, innuendo, anything else that's on your mind. I'll go back to the beginning of the list. Okay, it was all right. So I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it. All right. So we'll call the Ted Lasso discussion, but it's more theories. Like I said, it's more theories than anything else. Well, and Sam, I think that's it. Sam, I think you're right on. I think that's it. I think he goes back and I think you're spot on. I think you're right there. Okay. Good call, Sam. I like that. All right. Let me go back to the very beginning of stuff and let me see if there's anything that I missed. And once again, if there's anything that I did miss that I don't find, go ahead and repost it. I know we talked a lot about WrestleMania and Cody Rhodes and things like that. Let's see. Going through. Yes, Badger. Sam Allardyce is available. That might be more for Leicester than it would be for Chelsea. Coco. This is a Jarrett discussion. The amount I've heard Ange being linked to EPL clubs got to be a matter of time, unless he's happy at Celtic. And I know that, but the thing is, would you want the headaches? And this goes to the question that we had earlier. Would you want the headaches of dealing with Chelsea or Spurs and the Premier League, or would you rather be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? Right now, Ange is a big fish in a small pond, and he's building something at Celtic, and they love him there. So would you rather be happy building there or doing something else? That's the other part. Nix pushes back on the notion it's a good morning. Foxes are doomed as doom can be. I think your run-in saves you. I really do. I think your run-in gets you. I think you're okay in that regard. I think there are other teams that are worse off. Like I said, I think Southampton's done. I think that there are a couple of others that have rougher run-ins, and I think that that's the element in all of this. I mean, I think Everton's in trouble, and I know ropes. You probably look at the run-in, and you're probably better at it than I am right now. Then, West Ham's only a point out of the relegation fight, but they got a big win on the weekend. So, I mean, honestly, I'm looking at 8 teams. I'm looking at those 8 that are separated by 5. I think Palace is safe. I think that win went a long way. Wolves, worries me. West Ham worries me. Bournemouth has won 2 of 3. They figured it out with Solanke up top. Leeds, I just think that there are teams that are worse. So for me, I'm looking at 7 teams in 2 spots. I think Southampton's done. But honestly, that's what I'm looking for. Other stuff, Milan and Bayern Bayern with the big win over Dortmund, Milan with the big win. Napoli and PSG lose on the weekend. It's just, and once again, we talk about big boy toys. PSG losing on the weekend. Let me check. See if there's any chance, any hope whatsoever of what's going on in Ligue 1. All right, so standings in Ligue 1. Like I said, this is just something that is a curiosity. I don't know. I don't think so. Lens and Marseille are 6 points back. Same amount of matches played. 38. So 9 matches played, 6 points back. So PSG really would have to stumble. I don't see that happening, but Lens and Marseille are 6 points back with 9 matches to go. Let's see. A lot of WrestleMania talk. I'm right there with you. I don't know if they bring in Jesse Marsh to save them. I think that because financially, I don't know. And Nick's probably would be better at this than I would. I don't know if financially they could afford to bring in another high-priced manager. It would have to be a caretaker, like a Javi Gracia situation at Leeds. And to me, that lends itself to those guys that we're used to seeing coming back in for relegation fights, like a Sam Allardyce. Something like, I'm not saying, Nick, that it would be Sam, but it would be someone like that who's been in a relegation fight before. When Crystal Palace, like I said, Palace brought in Roy Hodgson. We thought Roy Hodgson was done. Thought he was retired at the age of 75. They bring in Hodgson to the end of the year. Save us. And if you thought that things were bad when it came to watching Crystal Palace, it's going to be 0-0, 1-0. It's going to be, literally it's a point here, a point there. You're just trying to nick points where you can. And I think that should be the same thing for Leicester or anybody in this situation. So that's what you're staring at. But Badger, this is the thing. At what point do managers just say no to Chelsea? And Coco, to the point, as long as they're paying insane money, they'll never say no. No, I mean, why would you? And to the point that Michael had and everybody else have had this morning, if they're going to pay me this kind of money, if they're going to pay me 50 or 60 million pounds, as long as it's somewhat guaranteed, mainly guaranteed, then why turn it down? The challenge of Chelsea, Nick's. Roger sacking feels like shooting the captain as the ship goes down. Yeah. Yes. And Nick said it should have been done months ago. And the players bear a huge responsibility if and when they go down, too. Absolutely, they do. Socrates, welcome. It's the first time I think that you've been in a while, but welcome. Mike Stoll, a decent goalie, been there a long while. Caretaker a good few times, 6 or 7. But yeah, Michael Head. Love for Chelsea to hire the guy and keep him, but doubt that'll happen. Yeah, and Knicks, yeah, they are winnable in theory. Winnable in theory. Absolutely. And to the point that was made about positioning, I mean, if you think about things right now, we got into the standings. Standings in the Premier League. And I know that we've been bouncing around a lot of them this morning. And fine, if you're not going to answer, then I'm going to go to another website and then look at it there. All right, so going to the Premier League website, because they'll have something that will behave. All right, so 6th place right now is at 43 points. Chelsea right now is at 38. You are 5 points out of 6th, which would put you in Europa Conference League. But the problem is that Brighton has 2 matches in hand over you, and Liverpool, I mean, you're hopscotching a lot of folks. You're 5 points out of Europa Conference League, but would Europa Conference League be worth it to you if you were Chelsea? still getting into a postseason European football? That's the question. 28 matches played, 10 to go, 5 points out of European Conference League. That's what you're hunting for. You're in that group 2. You're in that second group, 43 to 38, or call it group 2B, because you know that the race for the title is Arsenal, Manchester City. Group 2, Newcastle, Manchester United, Spurs. That's European football. Then you've got group 2B, 43 through 38, Brighton, Brentford, Liverpool at 42, Villa 41, Fulham 39, losers of 3 in a row, and Chelsea at 38. So that's what you're staring at right now. That's what you're looking at. Nick says 0 confidence, match in hand on Spurs. And so that's what you're staring at. Literally, that is what you're staring at in all of this stuff. Matches in hand and all of these kinds of things. That is what you're staring at. All right. So getting into the newer comments. 2 coach firings in La Liga in the same hour. What did I miss? Yeah, coach. Well, is coaching carousel starting a little early this year? I don't know if it's starting. I think you always have mass panic starting around Boxing Day. I think that was when Scotty Tuhati got fired from Bournemouth, wasn't it? So you get blown out, people freak out, especially where relegation's concerned. And you're like, okay, since they're doing it, do I need to freak out? And there's a certain amount of keeping up with the Joneses here. Well, if they're making a move, they've obviously got a guy in place. Do I need to go? Do I need to fire my guy so I can get that guy before the other guy does? There's always that peer pressure that's associated with it, especially with those that are around you. That's the other part in all of this. Everton's only fixtures with bottom teams, Palace, Wolves, and Leicester. But, once again, that's right, Raya Valladolid and Espanyol. But, Ropes, the thing is, if you take care of business with the teams that are around you, once again, that elevates you and lowers them. Take care of the business with everything that's going on around you. Don't worry about things that you can't touch. Win the games from the teams around you, then you should be okay. Like I said, we're talking about those 8 teams separated by 5 points. Palace, they're just outside that group, so 9 teams, 7 points. You beat Palace, you beat Wolves, you beat Leicester, you should be okay because you're taking care of business with the folks around you. You focus on that third group. For anybody who's a fan of any of those teams, you're looking to stay up. Focus on what's around you. Focus on, if you're a fan of Palace, Wolves, West Ham, Forest, Bournemouth, Leeds, Everton, Leicester, and Southampton, focus on the games that are with those opponents because that's where you're making all of your inroads. If you can steal a point against a higher opponent, great. Focus on what's going on around you. That's the key. Don't get bogged down with what everybody else is looking at and things you can't touch. Like I said, if you can steal a point, Leeds was trying to steal a point at Arsenal the other day. They were competitive, and then all hell broke loose, and then Arsenal won, and we know why. Focus on what's going on around you. Don't focus on stuff that's out of your reach. But unfortunately, folks, these days, focus on what's going on out of their reach, thinking that they have to respond in kind, and then things spiral out of control and it gets even worse. Focus on your sphere. If you're in those clubs, if you're those 9 clubs, 12 through 20, focus on the matches that are around you there. Crystal Palace's next match is with Leeds. Big one for Leeds. Wolves gets Chelsea next. West Ham gets Newcastle next. Realistically, Wolves maybe with Chelsea, but hey, new coach bump. West Ham, Newcastle. Mitigate your damage. Forest and Leeds next. That's one that can swing things both ways. Don't be surprised if that one's a draw. Bournemouth and Brighton. Mitigate your damage. Next up for Everton is Spurs. Next up for Leicester's Villa. Southampton, who I think is done. It's got Manchester City. Couldn't have been a worse time for a match like that. Focus on what's going on around you. That's what you got to stare at. All that stuff going on that you can't control. Yeah, Spurs get Spursy today. That's the other thing is we've got stuff on TV, by the way. We do have the tail end of this week before it rolls into next week. So today, Everton and Spurs at 3. That's also on Universo. ESPN Deportes, Valencia, Rayo Vallecano at 3 o'clock. Generation Adidas Cup, the U15s, going on right now. Chelsea and Red Bull. Real Madrid and LAFC is on at noon. This is on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. U17s, 2:30 and 4:30. Manchester United Crew, Remo Stars, and Portland Timbers. ESPN Plus, Valencia, Rayo Vallecano at 3. Albacete and Las Palmas is also at 3 in the La Liga Smart Bank. That's what's going on today that you need to watch. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. Hype. Today's stuff to pay attention to. Rafa, Jesse Marsch, Ralph Hasenhüttl, Knicks. Rafa, Marsch, Hasenhüttl, Adi Hütter. All contenders for the Leicester City job. It's from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Graham Potter's sacking by Chelsea will spark huge interest at Leicester. That would be a good hire. That's from the Leicester Mercury. Potter could be offered an immediate return, according to TalkSport. Marco Silva has emerged as a surprise candidate to become Chelsea manager from the Daily Mirror. We mentioned Nagelsmann. We mentioned Pochettino. Club's also considering Sporting Lisbon coach Ruben Amorim, according to Fabrizio Romano. Liverpool have identified Conor Gallagher as a strong target this summer. Newcastle, firm favorites to sign James Maddison. Chelsea, preparing to fend off Real Madrid's interest in Reece James, could offer as much as £90 million. Villa, more realistic destination for $25 million or £25 million rated Southampton defender Mohamed Salisu than Chelsea and Manchester United. Liverpool interested in Eintracht Frankfurt and Denmark midfielder Jesper Lindstrom, competition from Arsenal. Everton have placed a £70 million price tag on Amadou Onana this summer. Premier League clubs monitoring South Korea midfielder Lee Kang-in, who's expected to leave Mallorca in the summer. That's once again from Fabrizio Romano. So you got that. Yesterday also, have not seen anything involving U15, U17. Have not seen that yet. But we'll keep an eye on the U15s and the U17s. Also, before we go, for those of you that were up at the Fraction, great to see you. And Atlanta United once again fought the 2's and Red Bull 2. Had the 1-0 lead, Eric Lopez. Interesting lineup last night up at the Fraction. Eric Lopez getting the start. And I think the game changed. And Jarrett mentioned it in the post-game show that game changed when Johnny Fortune was substituted out. Johnny was boss in the midfield. And then, I think Red Bull 2 gained the advantage, especially in the second half. Numbers completely and totally tilted Red Bull 2's way in the second half. But 1-1 draw after regulation, so Atlanta United 2 gets their first point in MLS Next Pro, and then losing 5-4 in penalties. So Red Bull 2 leaves with the extra point, and next up for Atlanta United 2 is a trip to NYC FC 2, and that is next Sunday at 7 o'clock, and you can catch that on Season Pass or on nextpro.com. It is yet to be decided where you can watch it, but the only road game for Atlanta United 2 in the month of April is next week. So you have plenty of opportunities for the rest of the month, 16th, 23rd, and the 30th, I believe, to go catch matches up at the Fraction. 5 of their first 6 are at home, so they can get some work done at home, and Steve Cook and everybody can figure out what they're looking at in MLS Next Pro. But it was great to see everybody up at the Fraction last night. Hoping to see you up there in 2 weeks. NYCFC 2 is the next match for Atlanta United 2. And I know that Will had mentioned that he was keeping an eye on what he was looking at from Hunt City, but obviously weather watching, understandably so. And you've got, a lot of folks who are going through a lot of stuff right now in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Tennessee, in Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Kentucky, Illinois, all the way up through the Midwest and Iowa. And we just wanted to send, obviously, our love to all of them, and hope that they are all as okay as they can be. So obviously, love and best vibes to everyone who is affected from all the weather. And this is going to be another dicey week, apparently, especially later on. So I'll just keep everybody in your and all of your love and your thoughts this week when it comes to weather and folks having to go through difficult stuff. Central Division, really quickly, in MLS Next Pro. Chicago Fire and OCB, they're at 6 points for their first two matches. FC Cincinnati 2, Inter Miami 2 at 1-1 at 3 points. Crew 2 and Huntsville, they are at 2 points. And Atlanta United 2 getting their first point of the season. They are at 1 point. That's your 7 teams in the Central Division in MLS Next Pro. So we'll be back at it again tomorrow. And thanks to everybody for hanging out and staying dry. Just stay dry and be safe today. Supposed to be pretty nasty early on here in the Southeast. So be there for each other, be there with each other, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow, as Jarrett is off this week as he's heading to Orlando because Ivy Board has found an affinity for Harry Potter. So they're heading down to Orlando to keep an eye on all that stuff. But we got plenty of stuff to talk about all week long. A lot of Open Cup to talk about all week long. And also, MLS Weekend Review and Prime and Prop will be up later today because of the sackings. And then tomorrow it'll be USL Championship show, League One show, talking Open Cup tomorrow, going through cup sets all week long. Be good, Ropes. Thanks for hanging out as you always do. Dylan and Bart on Wednesday, talking Open Cup as well. Thursday, we'll catch up with our Open Cup friends at Appalachian FC and Des Moines Menace. And Friday will be the normal show. So the week should fly by, especially with Open Cup happening in a lot of different places. So for everybody here at SDH, to each one of you hanging out there as well, thanks for hanging out with us every single day. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning.